Have you had these before?
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
I actually still buy these sometimes.
What?
Like as chasers.
You can't cheese it. No, let's wait. No.
Oh, cheers.
That's the most adult thing. As
Cheers.
Cheers.
What flavor is this?
I don't know. I've never had green before, but these are wow. These hit.
Oh. You could drink these so fast. Damn.
How did you? How did you just? Damn. Welcome to Dear Media. My name is Rod, and I have my friend here, Natalie.
Yes.
Natalie, welcome to the Dear Media recording studio, all the way from Chicago. And you came just for this, I know.
Yeah, I just came for the day, just for this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're going to come
exactly.
back. No. So, Natalie, you are well known from the hit show Love is Blind.
No, I think you actually mean Too Hot to Handle.
Too Hot to Sure.
That's the one you're actually talking about?
Haven't seen that. And then also, I haven't seen Love is Blind either yet. I know it. I'm sorry.
Rod, what am I doing on this podcast then?
You're going to tell me what it is. Wait, that's what you should do. Right now, explain to me what Love is Blind is for someone like that you met on the street. If you just had to say, this is what Love is Blind is.
You know, I actually had to do this for my parents.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you explain it to your parents? Because apparently your dad is famous too now. It's like everyone loves your dad.
Yeah, he was, everyone loved him on the show, but they didn't know I was doing the show, and they actually filmed the first time they found out, I did Love is Blind and I got engaged from it, and they were meeting
They didn't
Shane.
know you were on it before?
No, so when they dropped me off at the airport, they were like, I said I'm doing a show, I'll be off the grid for a few weeks, and I think my dad just assumed I was doing Survivor or some sort of challenge show, and he's like, wow, this is so exciting. I'm so excited.
Race, yeah.
They're like, I'm so excited, that you're gonna show people how athletic you are.
British Bake Off.
Yeah, exactly. And then no, I came out of it fully engaged. But anyways, for those of you who haven't watched the show, the premise is there's 30 men and women. Okay, sorry. There's 15 men, 15 women, and you just date. Really?
Yeah, I thought it was
I mean,
4
you gotta have
each. And you just date? That's it?
But yes, you date blindly. So you're in these individual pods. You never see, the women never saw what the men looked like, and you just kind of date
them. It was just
voice? Yeah, it was just voice. Voice, you're kind of in this pod. There's no one else in there. There's cameras, of course, but they're operated... Is it electronically or virtually?
Virtually, yeah.
Virtually. And yeah, you just date sight unseen. So
oh my goodness. So how did you live in these pods?
There was a lounge area.
Okay.
So when you're not going on these pod dates, you're in the lounge talking with the other women.
So all the women knew each other?
Yeah. So we all knew each other. We all hung out during the pod dating portion of the experiment. But for the most part, we were in the pod. So we would date. By the end of the days of pod dating, we were talking to the men for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. Yeah.
Just on the phone?
Not on the phone, in the pods.
In the pods.
Yeah.
Okay, so then once you met them, and then didn't you all take a big trip, a little company retreat or something? I don't know.
Okay, Rod, I hate that you never watched the show because, what are you even talking about? I'm going to keep going
with this.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened. No, so the couples who got engaged, some of them were asked to go on a honeymoon, which was in Mexico, and then we, moved into an apartment when we got back to Chicago, and got to know each other until our wedding day.
So you moved to Chicago?
Yeah. So, I guess we all lived in Chicago. After Mexico, we just went back to Chicago, and then they provided us with these apartments. So we lived with our partners.
Okay.
With our fiancés.
Fun.
Yeah.
Good times.
It's fun. And then...
And it filmed a year ago, right?
Yeah, it filmed exactly a year ago.
But the reunion was recently.
The reunion was in February, so it was a few weeks ago, yeah. And it was crazy because when we filmed the reunion, we were watching the show for the first time as everyone else.
Oh my goodness.
Around the world. So we didn't get those episodes in advance. And so there were everyone was like very emotional in that room because we're seeing everything again for the first time.
I kind of like that way of doing it, though. It adds a little extra dynamic to it, rather than like, oh, we just left, but here's the reunion already, or it's like a month after, because I know a lot of other reality shows.
Yeah.
So with the show, obviously, you end up with someone, and that person was Shane, and you guys are no longer together. What's your relationship with Shane right now?
Yeah, so we don't talk at all.
Okay.
I think that's probably the healthiest path for us, is just not having any communication. I think a lot of things have happened at the last few weeks where, like, clearly
recently
where we're just not in a place where we can be cordial. So it's, I've kind of just stopped all communication with him. We did date after the wedding for several months, so it was like more of like a longer term relationship than what you see on the show. And just, there was a lot of ups and downs, and I think looking back on it, it just wasn't, a healthy relationship for both of us.
Wow.
And things really happened, and I think we were trying to be cordial and trying to hold on to see if there was anything there, especially when the show came out. Like, a lot of those old emotions came up because we're watching like our good times for the most part. But yeah, I think we've kind of come to the conclusion that there's just like too much like hurt and sadness there, that it's just best we kind of move our separate ways.
Which I do think also is relatable with relationships in general, right? It's like that happens in the real world. That doesn't just happen to someone who's put on, reality TV, but like in the real world, sometimes the most healthy thing is just to stop communication. There are relationships even that, you go back to and you kind of let something, spark another flame, but then it's not for the best in the long run. So you just have to know your boundaries. And if that's your boundary, I think that's commendable.
Yeah. And I think with that relationship, because we met in such a unique way and fell in love so quickly, I think we were just like, when will we ever have this chance to like fall in love blindly, really?
Yeah.
And so I think that's why we were holding on to that. But yeah, I think, it's sad because I think for the most part, at least with people I've dated in the past, we tend to be more cordial, and unfortunately it wasn't the case here, but that's real life. Like sometimes you just need to cut the cord, or sometimes like a friendship can develop, but that's what happens.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I know it's probably not easy to talk about, but
yeah,
cool.
But I'm in a happy place
Good.
now,
and that's all that matters. It's like I'm in a big part of my life too, where seasons ending and new ones starting, but it's it's not easy, but it is important that in order to be the best version of yourself, in order to move forward, that there are some points where not being selfish, but you need to look out for yourself first.
And I think that's what I recently learned. I don't know if it's just like my personality, but I tend to put myself second. And I think now, just with everything that's happened recently, I'm like, I have to just protect myself. Now that I'm kind of like forced into this like public arena, I was like, I need to protect myself. I need to protect, my family and my friends. And that is just making choices for myself now. Like, and doing what's best for me, and not, this sounds really harsh, but I was like, I can't be considerate of other people's feelings when like I am being kind of like tossed around. I was like, I just have to protect myself.
Yeah, of course.
So
because then it only gets you deeper into that cycle too.
Yeah,
it's not easy to get out of. Well, I commend you in that. Like I said, I think that's a really big step to take.
Everything's a learning experience.
So. That's my biggest motto that I have in life right now, is everything is learning experience. Every date's learning experience. This podcast we're filming right now, it's learning experience for me, for you. It's just like everything is learning experience.
For sure. So
cool.
That's how I have to view it, and kind of I just have to move on with my life.
Cool.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest questions that I get is, what do I do for work? And fun fact, one of my first jobs ever was selling websites. And let me tell you, it is not easy. But with Squarespace, it can be. So Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. You can set yourself aside with a beautiful website, engage with your audience. It's really good for small businesses. You can sell anything, your products, even the content that you're creating online, and your time. One of my favorite parts about Squarespace is the appointment scheduling. So you can add online booking and scheduling for whatever classes or sessions to your Squarespace website, and clients can actually see your availability or reschedule. It works for creators as well. Like I said, you can create pro-level videos effortlessly. The Squarespace Video Studio app actually helps you make and share engaging videos to tell your story, grow your audience, and even drive up your sales. If you're selling something, like I said, really great for small businesses. And I'm sure you've seen this before, but connect your social media accounts too. So you can display posts from all your social profiles right on your website, automatically push website content to your favorite social media channels so your followers can also share that too and promote your business. Now, you can actually launch using code ROD, R-O-D. So head to squarespace.com/ROD for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use offer code ROD to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. All right. So again, that's squarespace.com/ROD and you get 10% off of your first purchase of a website or domain. Again, I love Squarespace. I love the product itself and the clean websites it creates. So did you always, well, not always, but was there like a point in your life you're like, I want to do a reality show? Or was it like you were approached via Instagram, email? Because you work as a consultant, right? Like a corporate job. Okay.
Yeah, I work in a corporate job. I don't think I've ever like thought to myself, oh, I would love to be a reality TV show star.
You're watching Jersey Shore growing up. Like,
and I was like, I want to be Snooki.
I want to be Sam.
No, but honestly, I didn't even watch season 1 before applying for the show. But when the casting notice came out and they were like, we're recruiting in Chicago or casting in Chicago, like I had 20 friends being like, apply to the show. So I actually applied with my best friend.
Oh, cool.
And we were just like, oh, like we'll just do it. She loved the show. I never saw it with her. And I was like, I'll just like, we're both single. It's a pandemic. Like, let's just do it. And then, a few days later they called me and that's how the process started.
And she didn't get on?
No, she didn't get asked.
Bummer.
It was just me.
Yeah. I'm sure looking back, she's probably like, for the best.
Well, she's in a very serious relationship now, so good. I feel like it's kind of worked out really well for her not to do the show.
It's crazy now in Chicago, because I live in Chicago. We've known each other before this. But the like reality fame that is like coming into the city, because there's even like more Bachelor contestants in Chicago, or The Circle is filmed there. So
and there's you?
No. I'm not a reality. I'm literally my own reality show. Yeah, like
that's
I put
true.
15
well, I guess you're not a reality TV, but I'm saying like, we've got TikTokers in the city now.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. So I guess from being on the show, obviously there's this like perception that people make from you based off like edits and all this stuff. Is there anything that you have, seen that you wish people would know about you? Not even versus the show, or just that like wasn't showcased, or like what's something that you feel like the show didn't capture about who Natalie is?
Yeah, I'm not. I think there's a lot the show didn't capture about me and the rest of the cast. I mean, I think there's a lot of footage, but it was condensed to
snippets,
10 episodes, and of course you're only going to get snippets of who we are. It's hard because it's like, do I really want to share it? I just realized in kind of this reality TV show world, like the more you give, the more people want. I will say one thing I wish they showed on the show is more of the deeper conversations we all had with our fiancés, like what really, like what caused that emotional connection. Specifically between Shane and I. Like people never understand like how we ended up together, but we've had similar things happen in our lives that have been like really impactful to us as people. And it's not something like I'm willing to share publicly, but like we've gone through some stuff, him and I, and that's what we really connected on. And so I think on one hand, I'm glad this show didn't show it, because I think they were just trying to respect our privacy and our vulnerability. But at the other hand, I think people are like, what did you even see in him? Or even vice versa, like, what did he see in her?
Because there's, statements being said now and everything. I'm sure you wish, like, I want to say these things, but like for you, even just yourself, you're like, you know what? I am who I am, and that's a good place to be, which I feel like is the best head you could have on your shoulders through all of this. I guess one question I also had, and I actually asked Jason Tardik, who's on the podcast as well, it's very different. It's a different life you're stepping into. I'm sure it's overwhelming, and there's cameras everywhere. What did you do to prioritize yourself and your mental health throughout that entire process?
During filming?
Filming and after?
During filming, honestly.
Or just like a whirlwind? You're like,
I try to go with the flow as much as possible. It was so hard to emotionally prepare for what we went through. I don't think anyone on the cast was expecting the emotional journey we would go through. And so in like full transparency, like I was not prepared for filming and just everything that would happen from that experiment. I think afterward, though, I really turned to therapy to kind of heal myself. And I think I didn't realize until after the fact how impacted I was by the experiment and just doing the show in general. And like being in a real relationship that kind of exploded at the end. So and then I think just knowing that millions of people were going to watch it afterward and it was going to be used for like public entertainment, that was like just really hard to like wrap my head around. And so I really turned to therapy and like really on my friends and family and just like really talking about everything that happened to me. I think I tend to be more guarded and like protect myself by just keeping my thoughts and feelings to myself. But I think after filming, I was like, I really just need to talk about like what I went through with someone.
It's so good. Therapy is so important for everyone, you know, which I've said from day one, but it's a lot of people have this idea that therapy is, you know, I'm just going to get advice, which I actually just went through it with a friend and he was like, well, they're not giving me advice. I'm like, at the end of the day, it's not advice. It's not like a life coach. It's for you to process your feelings and they kind of guide you through that journey. And I think that's the great part about a good therapist as well, is they respect that it's like your journey, right? And so they're going to come alongside you. They're not going to navigate it for you. You said something interesting in there where you said it's a real relationship. I know a lot of people have stigmas about like dating shows and reality shows that it's like, you know, oh, we only like truly got to hang out for like 5 hours total before we got engaged or all of this stuff. But it sounds like with you guys truly, like the entire cast were day in, day out, hanging out with their future spouse or whatever, like all the time. So I'm sure that was something too that the cameras captured, but people had a hard time grasping, is it's like a real relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's why Love Is Blind is so different from other shows, is the producers don't meddle into the relationships and kind of what's like said. Like everything we say is what we say on camera, and the development of that relationship, like that's the real evolution of that relationship. And so I think people forget that it was like a real relationship and it was like real emotions that they saw on screen. Like we weren't just these characters, you know, you were really getting those snippets you saw were like real, like you were really getting that insight look into my life and like the lives of like my friends and, you know, other cast members.
And you guys are still friends? Like
most of us are still friends.
I love that.
I know.
That's cool. So you came out of it with friendships and, you know, relationships. And I don't want to say trauma bonding, but you have this bonding experience of something that you guys went through together.
And it's been really good. So when the show was coming out, we really leaned on each other because there was so much attention on us. And, you know, I think everyone on the cast got some sort of like backlash or like negative, you know, negative comments and things like that. And so having each other was really important to kind of like work through that and be like, you know what, it's fine. It's, you know, the opinions of people who don't matter. So it was really nice having them to just, because they understand what I went through and vice versa. And, you know, just being able to relate to what they were experiencing when the show was coming out.
That's great. Maybe you can give me some advice here. What do you do to handle those negative comments that you just talked about?
Why do you get negative comments?
All the time.
Really? On what?
It's usually like bros who are like, oh, like man up, you know, stuff like that, or anxiety isn't real, or just take a drug for it. And, you know, it's like people just don't respect that it's like my journey, or people have.
What?
Another big one is just people feeling like they should know everything about my life and they feel entitled to it. Yeah, which is really difficult.
I know. I experienced that too. I don't know. I'm just going through it, so I'm not sure if I'm.
Because I mean, I've gone through it in the past too with, you know, other things in my life, you know, like body image issues and all of that, where I had, you know, some severe body dysmorphia, and I've always had to deal with those negative comments, you know, and creating tough skin. But it's hard because you don't want to negate them, because then it's just like you brush under the rug for them to further blow up. But I guess where therapy can come into play too.
Yeah, I would just say I've really stayed away from other social media channels outside of Instagram and TikTok. But even with like Instagram and TikTok, I don't really read my DMs or the comments or things like that. And that's just a way for me to like protect my mental health and not be impacted by other people's opinions. So
it's
yeah,
crazy.
that's kind of what I've done.
The entitlement that people have to reality TV stars and what they feel like they made their relationship, or they're the ones that like are also in the relationship. And it's just like, at the end of the day, it's like you watched the show, it was great, it was entertaining, you consumed it, but at the end of the day, it's like they're real people too. It's not just like a character that like can leave set and like turn off and be someone completely different. It's like, that's who you are, you're not acting.
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of questions of that kind of cross that line where they want to know so much about you and what happened in that relationship beyond what was shown on the show. And sometimes I understand it, like why they're so invested. I mean, you know, I do that with TV shows that I watch where I get invested in the characters and I want to know like, you know, what's their life like now, or like what really happened. But I don't know, it's tough when you're on the other end of it where you're like, why am I getting asked these questions? Like they're really hard for me to answer, and it's not something I want to share. But like sometimes I know that it's not coming from a bad place from most of the people asking. It's just
curiosity. They saw a little snippet and they want to know more.
Yeah,
you know? And that's sometimes I'll be honest and be like, hey, just not ready to cross that boundary. And then people are like, oh, sorry. You know, it's like they have.
Really? You'll say that?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Oh, I just kind of ignore the DM.
And that's fine too. Maybe I just feel like I owe everyone an explanation, which is, I don't. What you said that you would like watch shows and stuff before. What shows do you watch? Like, what's your like go-to binge watching show? Like on a weekend, you know, rainy weekend in Chicago.
A rainy weekend in Chicago, which is like every weekend.
Every weekend, yeah.
I'm trying to think what I've been watching lately. I don't know, any like Netflix reality TV show. Like I watch like Love Is my season.
Season
like
2,
I just watched The Ultimatum.
Oh my God, everyone's watching that.
Have you watched that?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say, if you watched The Ultimatum and didn't watch Love Is Blind season 2, like I would be actually so mad at you.
Oh man, maybe I will. I watch reality TV, but my reality TV that I watched growing up was like Jersey Shore. Remember Next?
Yes,
I feel like,
on MTV.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's crazy the transition that we've had in dating shows from like Next, people getting off a bus and literally they have like one date in a random park and like see ya. Parental Control.
Is that where they're in the rooms? Like they look. What's the one where they're like in a van, like the guys and they're
watching? Next.
No, not Next. It's where they're like they look at people's rooms. Do you know what I'm talking about on MTV?
No, wait. It's not Cribs.
Is it Room Raiders?
Room Raiders? Here, let me see.
I feel like it's Room Raiders.
Room Raiders. With the van.
Is it Room Raiders?
Yeah.
I love that show. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
My grandma used to babysit me. I used to watch these shows all the time, and I was like, I feel like I was like 7, 8, 9.
Well, I did, because Next was like, my parents wouldn't let me have cable in my bedroom. Like I just like had the TV to plug in my GameCube or my PlayStation. But I would get just like a random channel 3 or 4 and Next would play at like 10 p.m. So I'm watching Next and I'm like, this is so different. Yeah. I liked Parental Control though. It may be similar to Love Is Blind. It's like, you guys don't have like a hometown date situation, right? Where they go meet your parents.
Oh, they do. That's like, yeah. That's how Shane met. If anyone for anyone who hasn't watched the show, Shane was my fiance.
Got it.
On the show, but they filmed a scene where my parents met Shane for the first time, but I also had to explain the Love Is Blind experiment to them.
Again? Oh, because you didn't before.
I didn't. They really want to save it for for it to be on camera.
Was that just you, or is that everyone on the show?
No, most people told their parents like, "Oh, I'm doing like Love Is Blind," but I just couldn't tell my parents.
So I guess like re-entering normal life, because you were literally in like confinement,
also,
you know.
I feel like I'm sitting
it's
as
okay.
if you're interviewing me.
Yeah.
Like, should I be more like...
We'll put the light like right above you. So you were in confinement, you were in a room. Was it like this size? Was it bigger? You know, just day in, day out. And then
like in the pod?
Yeah. And then like even you couldn't flaunt your relationship. So these apartments that you lived in, like were you guys going to the grocery store together, or were you guys like staying inside? Like how did you re-enter normal life after the show?
So while we were filming, no one knew that we were filming Love is Blind. So we would just go to the
Oh,
grocery
yeah.
store.
No one knew who you
Yeah,
guys
like
were. Yeah,
no
that
one knew
makes
who we
sense.
were.
Yeah.
And even when we would film scenes like outside in the public,
Everyone's like,
no, yeah, everyone
a
like would
commercial or
everyone
yeah.
would look at us and be like, "Who are they?" But
Mhm.
if they did ask, we'd be like, "Oh, we're filming a mayonnaise commercial," and they'd be like, "Oh, like okay,
Mayonnaise.
like great." I was like, "Bye." Everyone would say it like every time someone asked,
Love
like what
that.
we were filming. But after the fact, I mean, for the most part, my family and friends knew what I went through, so I didn't have to keep it really under wraps. They were, at my wedding day and had to sign NDAs, so
Sure.
like they knew what I had gone through. I think I really struggled with work, like my work colleagues.
Because you're still working your corporate job.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Were they
right now I'm on like a vacation or like
yeah.
a break right now, but I'm still at the same company.
Were they like slacking you or like messaging you, be like, hey, watched you in the show?
When the show was coming out, I was like working on a really intense project and
for work.
Yeah, for
like,
a client, and like people at my client would message me being like, "Hey, are you Natalie from Love is Blind?" And I just never responded. I was like, I can't admit that I was on the show. But before the show came out, I would wear my engagement ring, when I was still engaged to Shane, and I would forget it was on, and they'd be like, "Are you engaged?" So I had to talk about it, and they were like, "Oh, who is he? Like, how long have you known him?"
It's like
I'd be like, "Oh, I feel like I've known him forever."
Yeah.
So they knew, and I just had to act really cool about it, and never mentioned the show until, of course, it came out, and they're like, "Oh, it makes sense."
So that's a hard transition, I guess, back to your corporate job. I know that we see people, on these shows or just TV in general, or these like hosts even, that we feel they're so unattainable. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing I've learned in meeting people like you, or even someone like Lance Bass, is just like everyone is a human, and everyone goes through the same thing. So I guess, what is a piece of advice? Because there might be people out there who are, going through something that you have gone through in the past. And it doesn't have to be a specific situation. If it is, great. But what's a piece of advice you would give to yourself 10 years ago for someone either entering the corporate world or just entering a new season of life?
I think when I was in my early 20s, I cared so much what people thought about me, like the way I looked. And a big thing was, what my body looked like. Like, I was so focused on trying to be at like what I thought was the perfect weight, like being skinny. And so that led to like the development of my bulimia in my early 20s, which I struggled with until like a few years ago.
Wow.
But I was like restricting my eating, and then I would purge, not in the form of vomiting, but with just fasting, and like using laxatives and things like that. And that led to like these binging tendencies. So I really struggled with kind of being like very comfortable in my skin and my body. It was really tough even for me. Like, I just realized those thoughts about my body still stayed with me when I was watching the show. Like, I was being hypercritical of like, wow, my body's like, I didn't realize like I was bigger than, I thought I was, like watching the show, like things like that. So I'm just, I don't know where I'm trying to go at this point, but if I could just, what was the original question?
No, you said you were giving yourself grace, like give yourself 10 years ago a little bit of compassion and grace.
I just wish that I was more kinder to myself and not so critical of myself. And, I'm still kind of learning and being kinder to myself and my body as well.
So and thank you so much for sharing that, because that's a big part of someone's, life and, something they go through. And it is common, so I'm glad you shared, because I'm sure there's people out there listening or watching that have gone through it or going through it now. Where I went through something similar, where I was overweight and lost a large amount of weight, and then it kind of manifested itself into an eating disorder with restrictive eating, and just like tracking every calorie that was going to my body, which for some people, I know people who train for things, that's what they have to do, or for people with dietary restrictions. But for me, it was, just a toxic mindset that every second I put something into my body, I thought about how it would process internally, and it kind of takes away from you socially too.
Yeah.
I lost friends in that time just because
I did too.
I didn't want to go out, or I just was like feeling so down on myself that I didn't want to, put on new clothes or anything like that, or I was scared to look in a mirror. So that's really good advice, because I think that is definitely something I would want to do to myself too. Is 10 years ago is kind of when it was happening. Is give yourself grace and just know at the end of the day, there's bigger things in your life that you're going to succeed in and that you're meant for than what you look like. On the outside.
And I don't know why I was like so focused on what I looked like. If I could turn back time 10 years ago, I would definitely tell myself, like, go easy on yourself. Yeah. Like, don't be so critical about how you look. And I think that's my biggest regret, is just doing that to my body, of just taking it, through these like ups and downs and just not taking care of myself. I just have this body, and I wish I just, nourished it a bit more. Yeah. But
wow. Well, thank you.
Anyways, so that's something that, I guess, like I said, I would tell myself. But it's tough because I think I would say I have a really healthy relationship with food, but those thoughts still come back, especially with the show. Like just seeing my body and also receiving like messages about my body too. And so you like just get into that negative mindset again. And
people think they're helping even with things where it's like, this isn't, your words aren't helping me, Yeah. I'm sorry you had to go through that. But it's good to see that you have therapy now too, which I'm sure helps. I know for me, it's helped a lot as well. Just processing confidence is really the biggest part of that. What did your MySpace profile look like?
It was boring.
What?
It was boring.
Did you keep like the blue template that everyone else had?
I just did the bare minimum. I have no creative bone in my body, and
you weren't like coding on the back end, like filters and.
I wanted to, but I couldn't figure it out. Like I do like the HTML and it was, or whatever it's called, and it would never take. Like it would mess something up, so I was like, forget it.
You didn't even have a song on there?
I think I had. I don't think I even had a song. I think I had like 2 photos, and that was it.
If you could have had a song, what would it have been? What was like your song in 2006? Like you hear 2006.
Did Sierra's 1-2 2-step or 1-2-step?
Yeah, 1-2-step.
Yeah. Was that out in 2006?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I feel like it would.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah. The intro to that is so good. Well, that's a good question too. What is, when you're in a funk, like you're creatively or work related, what's a song that you'll put on and it'll get you out of that funk? Could be now.
Man, this is a hard
For me right now, it's the As It Was by Harry Styles.
I love that song.
God. It's so good.
I think mine will always be Good as Hell by Lizzo.
Oh, yeah.
That is my most played song
really?
On Spotify, yeah.
Did you see that her and Harry Styles performed together this
weekend? I saw that.
Weekend before Shania Twain, which is just
I know you're
iconic.
A big Shania Twain fan.
Well, her and I are friends now. So.
You are?
No, we're just social media friends, and I met her once.
God. You call everyone your friend. I'm like, whatever.
Okay, then you're not my friend anymore, Natalie. Okay, I guess that leads me to my next question. This is a very important question. In today's day and age, TikTok and all of that being so relevant. Who's your favorite TikToker?
I want to say it, but I don't want to say it because I know it's going to get, like, your head is going to.
Is it me?
Up. Yeah, it is you.
No, you're lying.
You are the only TikToker I follow.
Really?
And you're the first TikToker I followed ever. Yeah.
And now we're friends in real life.
Yeah.
Great.
Now we're friends
You're the
in
first
real life.
reality star. No, well.
That's a lie. Yeah. I was going to say, don't try that with me.
But that I know, that I know the best. So.
Really?
Wow, thank you. Yeah.
Should we talk about how we met?
Sure, we can do that.
Yeah, I slid into Rod's DM.
No, you did. I forgot. Let's go look at it, actually. Because I was confused because I didn't watch the show. And you followed me.
No, I followed you back in 2001.
2001?
No, sorry. 2021.
You followed my Zanga?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I found your Zanga. No, I followed you in early 2021.
So I did a Q&A asking, which also we need to talk about, instant hot chocolate made with hot water or milk. Someone asked me that in one of my AMAs, and I'm like, what kind of sociopath voluntarily makes it with water? And I actually got a lot of these, but what you said is people with IBS. So
I'm also lactose intolerant.
Yeah, you are. Because I think we've been somewhere and you're like, oh, I can't eat that. There's milk in it.
Oh my gosh, what is wrong with me?
I don't know, but I said, okay, fair. And that's where our friendship was.
And then, that's when this friendship happened.
Oh my God. So you don't risk, because I know, do you ever risk your lactose intolerance for anything? You know how some people do it for like
everything.
ice cream? Okay.
Yeah,
so
I do like McDonald's.
like a cheeseburger?
No, like the 10-piece nugs and a fish fillet.
What does that have?
Fish.
I love filet-o-fish. I
Me
feel like it's
too.
so underrated.
I know.
No one
Gosh,
gets
I get it all the time.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Wait, but how is that? What does it do with IBS? I guess not.
Yeah, like it's like one of my triggers, like very like greasy foods.
Yeah.
And I also don't have a gallbladder and I have acid reflux, so it's like so when I eat fast food, I'm like risking it all. Yeah. So and I'm lactose intolerant.
Okay.
So
you don't like risk it for ice cream? Ice cream doesn't do it for me in general.
I like it's like once in a while I'll risk it for ice cream, but most days I'll say no to it. But it's like any creamy pastas I'll risk it for. Yeah. Pizza I'll risk it for.
Oh, okay. So do you like deep dish pizza? Being from Chicago, well, let's set the record straight, and maybe you can agree with me on this because you grew up in the Chicago area too.
Yeah.
Deep dish is not what Chicagoans eat.
No.
Like we don't. I think I have deep dish like once a year.
I was gonna say I just have it once a year. My dad
and it's when
loves
people come into town.
Yeah. But my dad also loves deep dish pizza, like Illuminati's, and so.
See, I'm a Giordano's boy. Like
you are? Yeah, so actually, I do like Giordano's too. But my dad really likes the Lou from Illuminati's. If you're listening, Illuminati's.
Yeah. And Natalie's dad, frozen pizza, which don't actually make the frozen. Well, I'm not going to bash them.
Wait, what?
The frozen pizzas that people buy to make, they just get like soggy and watery.
Like Illuminati's frozen pizza?
Yeah. Like you can buy it from Illuminati's and they'll ship it to you from Chicago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. I feel like that kind of like defeats the purpose of like deep dish pizza. No, I don't really. I mean, I don't eat it often. I don't really like it.
I do
mind.
Like it is a lot of cheese though. So
that's a lot.
More than normal.
And a lot of tomato sauce, and my acid reflux is like
it's like
flaring
your nightmare.
up. Yeah.
You see a deep dish pizza on the counter and you start crying.
Yeah.
Well, Natalie, thank you so much for coming on Millennial Made and the chaos that today's episode was. No, I think it was a really good one. It was great to hear, your experience in the show and just, some things that you've gone through that I'm sure people out there would, aren't alone in. So I think that's really important. Yeah. So what's next? You just going to keep working your job? Well, Magic 8 Ball said you're going to do another reality show. So.
I hope not. Just kidding. I don't know. I'm probably just going to, like you said, like I'm going to keep working my job, hanging out with you, living in Chicago. Yeah. That's kind of it. Honestly, great. I have nothing exciting coming up.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's exciting. Yeah.
Can I just say something? Yeah. Because you're my friend, interview or like doing this podcast with you is like so awkward and funny to me.
Awkward and funny? Like in a good way or bad way?
No, like in a good way. Like I feel really comfortable, but
it's just like I mean, it's not a podcast based around the show. I feel like a lot of people do. Like you did our friend Alyssa's, and that's her whole thing is like reality TV. Yeah. So she obviously she knew what questions to ask and all that. Maybe I should have watched the show before, but
I was gonna say maybe you should have watched the show.
I think it's great.
I think it's because you're my friend and we're just not like at lunch or dinner talking. It's like kind of weird.
Yeah, but this is the conversation we would have.